From the moment you open your eyes each morning, a silent agreement is made between you and reality. You look around, recognize the familiar shapes of your room, the light filtering through the window, the sounds of life moving outside, and without thinking, you accept that this is the world. Solid, stable, objective. But beneath that casual acceptance lies a truth so unsettling that most people never dare to question it. You are not seeing reality. You are seeing a version of reality, a narrow slice filtered through your senses, trained by habits, shaped by expectations, and influenced by countless experiences that you barely remember. What you call the world is actually a personal projection, a customized illusion built inside your mind. Every color you see is only a tiny fragment of the electromagnetic spectrum. Every sound you hear is just a sliver of the endless waves vibrating through space. The mind takes this microscopic amount of information, stitches it together, and presents it to you like a finished painting. Not because it is true, but because it is simple, familiar, and safe. This realization is the first crack in the shell of ordinary perception, a crack that can be terrifying. Because once you understand that your senses show you only a fraction of what exists, the next question arises like a shadow on the horizon: what am I not seeing? And perhaps even more disturbing, why have I never questioned this before? Every person walks around with the silent assumption that my reality is the reality. But the truth is that every human being lives inside a private world, a mental environment built not only from senses, but from memories, beliefs, fears, and assumptions. You aren't just seeing, you are interpreting. You aren't just observing, you are creating meaning as you go. And yet the mind hides this from you. It wraps you in a comfortable illusion, a story that seems complete, even though most of the universe is invisible to you. Light you cannot see, sounds you cannot hear, energies you cannot feel, dimensions of thought and intuition that flicker just outside your awareness like whispers from behind a thin curtain. The real shock comes when you realize that this curtain has been there your entire life. Soft, silent, and unnoticed, until the moment you stop accepting the world at face value. Because the instant you question the illusion begins to tremble. Most people imagine prisons as concrete walls, locked doors, and steel bars. They picture chains, guards, fences, and cells. But the most powerful prison humanity has ever known has none of those things. It doesn't need them. Its walls cannot be touched. Its doors cannot be seen. Its chains cannot be held. Because this prison is built from thoughts, and its bars are made from beliefs you never chose. From childhood, you inherit an invisible architecture of ideas. You are taught what is possible and what is impossible, what is allowed and what is forbidden, who you should be and who you must never become. You learn to fear failure before you ever experience it. You learn to doubt your potential before you ever test it. You learn to shrink yourself to fit inside the expectations of people who barely understand themselves. And slowly, quietly, without noticing, you begin to mistake these borrowed thoughts for your own. The mind becomes filled with voices. You can't do that. Don't think that way. Stay where it's safe. Don't question things. People will judge you. None of these voices are yours. But over time, they blend into the background until they feel like you're in a narration. They tell you who you are, what you deserve, and what you should fear. They shape your self-image long before you ever understand you had the power to shape it yourself. This is the true prison, the cage of conditioned beliefs. A cage so subtle that most people never realize they are inside it. This prison controls more than your behavior. It controls your perception. It tells you what is normal, what is real, what is acceptable, even what is true. It filters every experience, every relationship, every opportunity, every moment of your life. The walls tighten each time you obey without questioning. They grow thicker each time you ignore your intuition in favor of comfort. They gain strength every time you silence your curiosity because you fear standing alone. But here is the secret the world rarely tells you. The door to this prison is unlocked. It always has been. The moment you begin to observe your thoughts instead of obeying them, a crack appears. The moment you question a belief that once felt solid, the bars loosen. The moment you realize that your mind can be watched, shaped, expanded, and rewired, the walls collapse because the prison was never physical. It was made of unexamined thoughts. And once you start questioning those thoughts, the way out becomes impossible to ignore. Every time a person gets close to awakening, something inside them begins to resist. It doesn't come with claws, fangs, or darkness. It doesn't appear as a monster hiding under the bed. Instead, it appears as something far more familiar, something far more intimate, a subtle inner whisper that speaks in your own voice, a soft, persuasive presence that says just one thing: stay asleep, stay small, stay the same. This shadow is not a creature or an enemy. It is a collection of every fear, insecurity, and unexamined belief you've ever carried. It lives inside the mind like a quiet echo, always trying to pull you back into the comfort of the familiar. Whenever you push against your limitations, the shadow pushes back. Whenever you question your assumptions, it floods you with doubt. Whenever you step toward awakening, it wraps you in the warm blanket of old habits. It doesn't need to attack you. It simply distracts you. It keeps you scrolling when you should be reflecting. It keeps you talking when you should be listening. It keeps you comfortable when you should be growing. It keeps your attention scattered so that your vision never sharpens enough to see beyond the surface. The shadow whispers, don't look deeper. Don't change what works. Don't question what you've always believed. Don't disturb the life you've built. It pretends to protect you, but in reality, it protects your limitations. It guards the boundaries of the mental world you've outgrown, and because it speaks with your voice, you trust it. You believe its warnings. You listen to its fear. But the truth is simple and unsettling. The shadow is not trying to save you. It is trying to prevent your transformation. Because awakening doesn't just change how you see the world, it changes how you see yourself. It burns away false identities. It exposes illusions you depended on. It dismantles old versions of you that can't survive in the light of awareness. And that process feels like death to the part of you built from fear. That is why the shadow whispers so softly. It doesn't want to scare you. It wants to soothe you back into sleep. Most people listen. Most people obey. Most people never ask who or what is speaking. But once you notice the whisper, once you see the shadow for what it truly is, something incredible happens. The whisper loses its power and your awakening begins to accelerate. There comes a moment on every awakening path when something inside you shifts quietly at first, almost unnoticeably. It may happen in the middle of an ordinary day while you're walking, sitting, or staring at nothing in particular. Suddenly, without warning, the world around you feels thinner, lighter, almost fragile, as if reality itself were a sheet of paper and someone gently pressed a finger against it from the other side. for the first time in your life, you sense the curtain. It is not a literal curtain, but a veil woven from your habits of perception, the invisible fabric that makes everything seem familiar, predictable, and solid. And when this veil flickers, even for a second, something remarkable happens. You glimpse the space behind it, a space that feels impossibly vast and strangely familiar, a space where your thoughts are not walls but passing clouds, where your identity feels soft and temporary, and where awareness expands far beyond the boundaries of the self you thought you were. This moment is unsettling. It challenges every assumption you've ever held. The world doesn't look different, but it feels different, as if a hidden dimension has quietly revealed itself. People continue speaking. Cars continue moving. Life moves on exactly as it always has, yet something deep within you knows that something fundamental has changed. The mind tries to explain it away. You're tired. You're imagining things. You're overthinking. But another part of you, the silent observer, the deeper awareness, whispers softly, "No, you finally noticed." This is the moment the curtain tears. Not completely, just enough for light to slip through. And in that thin beam of awareness, you sense truth. The world you've been living in is only the surface of something far greater. You experience a strange mixture of fear and exhilaration. Fear, because your old identity feels like it's dissolving. Exhilaration, because something inside you recognizes this moment as the one your soul has been waiting for. From this point forward, you can no longer fully return to sleep. Something has been revealed, something ancient, something that watches through your eyes and listens through your ears, something that has always been here, quietly waiting for you to notice. Once the curtain tears, even slightly, life begins to unfold differently. Synchronicities appear, insights deepen. The world becomes alive with meaning. You begin to realize the real journey is not out there. It has always been within. After the first tear in the curtain, something begins to awaken inside you, slowly at first, then with a quiet, rising certainty. It is not loud, it is not dramatic. It does not arrive like thunder or fire. Instead, it emerges like dawn, soft, steady, inevitable. You start to notice that behind every thought, behind every feeling, even behind the noise of daily life, there is a presence, a stillness, a silent witness watching through your eyes. Most people go their entire lives without ever noticing this deeper layer. They think they are their thoughts, their emotions, their memories, their stories. But as your awareness expands, you begin to sense something astonishing. There is a you that exists beyond all of that, a you that has never been touched by fear, anxiety, failure, or time. A you that simply is. This presence does not speak in words. It communicates through intuition, clarity, and an unmistakable feeling of truth. When you are quiet enough, it shines. When you stop trying to control everything, it rises naturally. When you relax into awareness instead of fighting your own mind, the light behind your eyes becomes unmistakable. It is the light you glimpsed in moments of deep peace. The light you felt in moments of wonder as a child. The light that flickers in dreams, meditation, or silence. The light that knows even when you don't. At first, this inner light can feel overwhelming. You may feel bigger than your body, as if consciousness is expanding beyond your skin. You may sense thoughts passing like clouds while you remain unmoved. This can be disorienting, even frightening, because the old identity, the small self built on fear, begins to lose its grip. But as this deeper awareness becomes more familiar, you realize something extraordinary. You have never truly been the one who suffers. You have never been the voice of fear. You have never been the limits you believed were absolute. You have always been the observer, the witness, the awareness behind the experience, the light behind the eyes. This recognition brings a profound shift. The world no longer feels like something happening to you, but something happening within your awareness. Fear loses its teeth, stress loses its weight. Old wounds begin to dissolve like shadows in sunlight. And bit by bit, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. Your essence is not fragile. Your consciousness is not small. Your being is not limited by the mind. There is a light inside you that cannot be dimmed, a presence that has been waiting patiently for you to remember it. And once you see it clearly, everything changes. Awakening is not a moment, it is a point of no return. Once the light behind your eyes becomes visible, once the illusion begins to crack, once awareness grows beyond the boundaries of who you thought you were, something irreversible happens. The world does not change, but your relationship to it does. What once felt solid now feels fluid. What once felt ordinary now reveals hidden layers of meaning. What once went unnoticed now speaks in symbols, synchronicities, and subtle whispers of intuition. You walk through the same streets, but they feel different. You speak to the same people, but you hear the spaces between their words. You face the same challenges, but you no longer shrink under their weight. Awakening is not the escape from life, it is the beginning of truly living. But this shift comes with a strange kind of loneliness. You realize that most people are still trapped inside the stories of their minds, repeating beliefs they never questioned, fighting battles that were never theirs, fearing shadows that have no substance. You want to shake them, help them, wake them, but awakening cannot be forced. The curtain tears only when someone is ready to see beyond it. And so you begin to live differently. You speak less, but with more meaning. You react less, but understand more. You stop searching for approval because you finally recognize your own worth. You start trusting your intuition, that inner compass you once ignored. You start seeing the bigger picture behind circumstances that once confused you. You start responding to life with clarity instead of fear. This is the true mark of awakening. Awareness becomes your foundation rather than your occasional visitor. Yet, the greatest transformation unfolds quietly within you. The old self, the one built from fear, doubt, and limitation, begins to fade. Not with violence, not with struggle, but with understanding. You realize it was never the enemy. It was simply the version of you that didn't know any better. Now you do. And once you see the world through awakened eyes, once you recognize yourself as the observer, the awareness, the light, you cannot return to who you were before. Not because you are forbidden, but because you have outgrown that version of yourself. The journey continues, deeper and deeper, endlessly unfolding, because awakening is not the end. It is the beginning of everything.